with Sasha Banks possibly not wrestling again until next year and more. This is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report for July 14th. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. Following their win over the Young Bucks and Team Taz to become the AEW Tag Team Champions on Dynamite, Keith Lee cut a promo addressing his personal situation he had alluded to in a tweet. "I only have 3 people in the world that I consider to be extremely close to me. One of them I've known for about 2.5 decades. I know what y'all thinking. Keith, you old. I'm 37, but as you can tell, I'm young in the legs, baby. I found out a little while ago as a chance that he may have cancer. As most of you know, last year I nearly died. I didn't say a word until the threat was gone and past. There isn't much you can do to me to rattle me against me, but when it comes to the people I love, found out 2 days ago, stage 4 colon cancer, and I dedicated this match to him and to another buddy of mine. The fact is, I didn't care if we won or lost. The fact is, this is a brotherhood and I'm devoting my everything to that. This is more than just a victory for me. This is more than just a victory for our story. This, sir, is a victory for you and a statement of my love. I'll always be there. When I get back to Texas, I swear to God, I'm going to get in my car and drive to Austin, and I will see you as soon as I can, my friend. Stay strong. Fight like we've done. Fight harder than we have. Fight harder than I did to live, and I'll be there soon, my friend. I love you." With Jim Ross appearing on commentary for AEW Dynamite at the midway point of the show, he explained the reason for this change on his podcast. That was a Tony Khan decision. Creatively, I was coming out before the show and doing all of Dynamite. The reception was humbling. Fans were glad to see me and they expressed themselves. The reception I was getting was really good. He thought the middle of the show, Dynamite, needed a boost. So JR became the booster. I come out in the middle of the show, still going to call the main events. Then we all take a bathroom break and go right into taping Rampage. It's only an hour. It's kind of like an old school hour wrestling show. I like that deal. I didn't have any issues with it all. I'm very Mariano Rivera. Go in for a long relief and get results for you. That's the deal there. Just keeping me fresh and special. And try to give Rampage a little boost commentary wise, selling wise. We need to obviously get the ratings up, which we are. That's the reason for that. No problem whatsoever. I get more exposure now than I did before. Speaking about his run in AEW, Impact Wrestling's Alan Angels admitted on the Two-Man Power Trip podcast that he took issue with his ring gear. Personally, no, I didn't like the mask. I think it was a good look, I think it looks cool, but personally, I don't like wrestling in it. It's just uncomfortable and I have to worry about it staying on all the time and making sure it doesn't fall off. You get to fix it so you can see through the eye holes and stuff like that. I personally didn't like it, but like I said, I did think it was kind of cool look for sure. Speaking about NXT star Roderick Strong on Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer noted that Roddy is not looking to stay. Roderick's fantastic, but he's pretty beaten down. I'm not talking about physically, I'm talking about the way he's booked and everything like that. And he's asked to get out. He's not allowed to get out. So he's in that weird state where he's somewhere he doesn't want to be, basically. Prior to Edge's bout against Randy Orton at Backlash, billed as the greatest wrestling match ever, William Regal stated on his podcast that Edge came to him for advice. And remember at the beginning of COVID, Bryan Danielson called me up and said, "Look, I need some help with something because I'm not used to working in front of no crowds." So I'm not going to get into that discussion now, but it was a deep discussion. I remember Edge calling me when he was doing a match with Randy Orton, which was built as the greatest wrestling match of all time. He wanted ideas, so I've got all these different things that I can tap into. Given his C1 vertebrae is not ossifying, Big E will have to wait and see if he can heal properly for a return to in-ring action. Talking about this with TMZ, the former WWE champion said, "I can live my life pretty normally, but my neck's not in a position where I should be ramming my head against other things, immovable objects. So wrestling doesn't make sense right now. For me right now, March of next year is very far off. so I don't want to spend a lot of time worrying or stressing about that. I'm just kind of living my life. With the possibility of never wrestling again, Biggie noted, honestly, my philosophy as a human being is learning to be content with whatever life brings you. I'm so grateful to not be in a wheelchair, but if I was, I would have to adjust to life in a wheelchair. That's just how I am programmed. If I spend hours or days or weeks kind of mourning where I'm at in life and not being what I wanted to be, that doesn't serve me. Months ago, Wall Street Journal reporters Joe Palazzolo and Ted Mann uncovered the hush money allegations against Vince McMahon, and on Busted Open Radio, Palazzolo explained how it all began. Sources told us it was in April that WWE's board was investigating this $3 million agreement with the woman who worked for McMahon. It basically took from April until we published our story to firm all that up, get additional sources, and understand what it was the board was doing. Mann noted the fact that there was one that was for $7.5 million was fairly eye-popping. That's a figure in the murky world of NDAs clearly suggests a big secret being kept. And that was one of the red flags that signaled to us that we had to get to the bottom of what that was, what it was for. Palazzolo agreed. Finding out that there was that $7.5 million agreement was really surprising. It shocked us. They're pretty horrifying, frankly, to coerce a sex act and then basically drive someone out of the company because they refused further advances, as this woman has alleged. That's all pretty terrible behavior. Asked when they found out about the McMahon payout of $7.5 million, Palazzolo said, "We found out about it after the first story was published. While we were reporting on the first story, we heard allusions to other agreements that had happened. So there were sort of women who were on our radar as potentially having been in these agreements. But then we just continued to report that out. There might have been a call list of 100 people that we might have bothered at this point. We learned of the agreement from a source last month, and then we continued to report it out." Mann added, "We're not going to talk about sourcing flat out. That's not confirming or denying that we talked to anyone, and I'm sorry to be evasive, but where we are with the reporting, and obviously you know from reading these stories, they're obviously anonymously sourced. There's a lot of things we have to be wary of right now. We do know where the board first heard about this. These anonymous emails began arriving at the end of March to members of the board of directors, someone claiming to be a friend of the woman who's the subject of the first NDA that we reported on. They laid out all the basics of what we confirmed and worded in that first story. Those emails were essentially saying, I'm not asking for money, I'm going to make this public. So we do know that the board heard of this was the anonymous emailer saying, I know about this and it's bad. He was basically saying McMahon had taken advantage of this woman. Following that AEW tag title match on Dynamite last night, it seems Matt Jackson is hurt, with the Wrestling Observer noting. The thing with Matt though is that Matt has had neck issues. I mean, just from the wear and tear. It's one of those things where you get hurt on a basic move, but it's because you've been doing so much stuff over the last, he's probably worked a very bump heavy style for what, 18 years, 17 years? Something like that. However many years it's been a lot of years. So I think we've seen that with a lot of the injuries, that they're on basic stuff, but they're on body parts that are very worn out. One of the matches with Pentagon and Phoenix, I believe it was, I think it was the really good one. Not the most recent one, but the one before. It was like a jump off of something into a Canadian destroyer. It was definitely a Canadian destroyer where he was hurt. But I mean, it wasn't like serious. I don't want to say not serious, he was hurt. But it's not like he missed any time or anything like that. But the neck was hurt, and you know, I mean, his neck has hurt him for years at times. Going by the WWE ring name of Ava Raine, The Rock's daughter Simone Johnson recently cut her debut promo for an NXT live event where she referred to herself as the final girl. Here's the clip.
In your eyes, and in your eyes, and in your eyes. Wondering what type of superstar I will be. Ava Raine is the embodiment of NXT 2.0. I am something fresh, I am something new, and I am something that all of you have been craving.
Yeah!
I don't need to come out here and say that I'm Daddy's little rich girl, or come out here and wrestle with a pillow.
When did you?
Or come out here and run around the ring on a skateboard. And to all of you, I am completely a mystery. ring, and I am the final girl.
With Sasha Banks announced for her first public non-WWE appearance since her walkout from the company, Fightful has given a huge update on when we could see her wrestle next. We reached out to other convention organizers who confirmed they reached out to her reps and were quoted a firm specific rate. However, wrestling-related promoters that attempted to book her were told that she was only taking non-wrestling related bookings until January 1st. WWE have still not officially confirmed her release publicly. One promoter that reached out said they can't imagine her not being released at this point. Talent we followed up with are also under this impression. Still, from an official capacity, nothing has changed. We weren't told if or not accepting wrestling-related bookings is a personal preference or tied to something contractual, but have exhausted sources to find out. Speaking of the walkout, Naomi recently put out another cryptic tweet which reads, "Anything that cost you your piece is too expensive." In some shocking news, Monday Night Raw will have a TV-14 rating starting July 18th, according to Andrew Zarian. This brings WWE out of the PG rating for the first time since 2008 for Raw, which had originally gone to TV-14 in 1997. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.